Hello and welcome back to The Motivating Force. Joining me as always, we have host Sway, an aspiring Marine Corps officer who's finishing up ROTC and his bachelor's degree in the criminal justice field. And myself, Justin, a motivational speaker who's always more than excited to share our wonderful ideas and topics with you guys. Today, we're going to keep a nice, simple Monday morning. We're honestly going to be talking about honesty. Being honest is a key virtue in life to keep everything simple and yet successful for yourself. And we're going to hit on 3 different principles here that really applies honesty to your daily living. We're going to talk about it professionally. We're going to talk about it with your friends and family. And most importantly, we're going to be talking about it with yourself.
Yeah, I mean, this is more like that serious topic that a lot of people should be self-reflecting when it comes to listening to this. I know it's going to be hard for some people, especially, in my case, I've been dishonest to myself and a lot of people, but after growing and, therapy helps a lot as well. And hopefully people will get that message across and they can start acting a little bit better when it comes to honesty.
Yeah, there's a lot of great points to be made here. And that's why I kind of ordered it the way I did, because we are more dishonest with ourselves than we are with other people, and then even less in the workforce. So it's kind of an order from, severity here, going from the least severe to the most severe cases of it, and how it can really affect your daily living. Jumping into the professional side of it, one thing that I learned from my dad, which he would talk to me about during his time when he was under the mentoring of a fairly successful entrepreneur here in Orlando. And it was that I don't know is an actual answer you can give to your boss, or an answer you can give to your employees. But the issue is making sure you follow it up. Because if you're just saying, oh, I don't know, that obviously just leads to an unproductive and lazy environment. But of course, being like, oh, I don't know, but let me find out for you, or I don't know how we're going to finish this project. Give me a couple of days here and we'll get an action plan going. But saying, I don't know, to kind of start that off, really, it creates a good amount of transparency with your leadership, or just with where you're at talking to your boss. And I tell you that because, we always want to seem like we just have our shit together all the time, especially professionally.
Well, that can also go down a dark road, because if you start saying like, oh yeah, I know the answer to that, you can ruin your chances of success in the long run. Because if you really don't know the answer, then you try to do something and it fails, then you just made yourself look bad. So you basically just shot yourself in the foot by trying to act like you know everything.
Even before you get to that point, it can be like, people can see through a lot more than what we think. And a lot of times they can see if you don't know something. It just makes this connection where you're like, oh, no, I got this covered. And you get that like false sense of confidence built up. Yeah. And everybody around you is like, all right, let's see how this plays out. You're not going to hide a whole lot from people. And luckily this sits, on the less severe side of it, because you do have those things where, you're going to get called out, things are going to get found out. It's just, it makes it so obvious that a lot of times in the workplace, you really try not to give that impression off too much. You don't want to seem like the hot shot. So it's less of a bigger issue, but it's still very important, because, what happens with that. And if you're just brutally honest all the time in the workplace, it does create that transparency with you. And contrary to popular belief, people are going to trust you more.
Right.
To just be open about everything. And even if that everything can be negative sometimes, and it will be.
Well, there's also the chance of you gaining more knowledge, because if you tell your manager or your supervisor, like, yeah, I honestly don't know how to do this, but like I'm willing to learn, they'll sit down with you and they'll teach you. What's taking a couple minutes more to do that project or whatever it is that you're working on, if you're learning in the process instead of just passing it on to somebody else. You get to get more experience hands-on with your supervisor teaching you the correct ways to do it.
Yeah, people love helping people who want to be helped.
Correct.
The issue you run into is trying to help somebody who seems like they know it all, or has an abundance of arrogance, or just being overconfident. Nobody wants to help that guy out. But when you're open and honest about everything, and you put everything there on the table, and people know they have something they can work with, they'll be more than happy to work with that.
Yeah, and again, to restate what you said earlier, you need a follow-up to the I don't know. Because like you mentioned with the air of laziness. So if you just say, oh, I don't know, you're going to seem like you don't want to know.
Yeah.
So there's not going to be any effort put into trying to help you because you don't put off that you want to know. So that's why you need to follow up with like, I would like to learn, or I would like to find out how to do this, or ask for help.
Yeah, it's a really strong point to make there, because I've been hearing it a lot in our like just a bunch of other podcasts, right? Because of course, we listen to self-help podcasts and all that, and they sit there and tell you how I don't know is okay, and it's an acceptable answer and all this, and it is. But I think a key point that a lot of people miss out on is the follow-up with it. So definitely, just to echo that, it's good to drive that point home where the I don't know does need a follow-up, and it is an acceptable answer in that form. But moving on to that, getting down the list here of severity, we're going to enter that little yellow area here when it comes to your friends and family. And I think the best way to really put this, and it's something that really stuck with me, was what Mike Tyson had to say when he was on Joe Rogan's podcast. And I think this was the first time he was on there.
Yeah, I was going to mention that recent one that he was on got him a little shook. Joe Rogan felt a little afraid of Mr. Mike Tyson.
Yeah. Oh, he's a scary dude, man. Yeah. He can be.
Well, he was very aggressive, let's put it like that, because he was getting ready for that fight.
Yeah. Getting in that mind space, and that's why I want to bring this story up, because somebody like Mike Tyson, he is a legend. Yeah. Whether you like him or you don't, in his field and what he does, he is a master of what he does. Yeah. And there takes a very special mindset with that. And the only thing we can hope to do in our lives is to recreate what some of these masterful people do in the way they think, to help us grow and enter into that state of being. So this is why I find it really important, because this is something I've actually never heard before. Only Mike Tyson I've heard this from. And he was talking about his off time, because obviously he's been retired for a long time, and he was kind of getting fat, kind of getting out of shape or whatnot. And he said he'd have friends who were like, hey man, I get it, but you need to at least stay on the treadmill. You need to be doing something. Right. Get out there, play some sports, have some fun, but you need to be doing something with your life. And then he said he had other friends who were just like still being the groupies. They were still hyping him up all the time and like, nah man, you're good. I see you gain some weight, but don't even worry about it. You're going to be fine. You're Mike Tyson. Like, what? Yeah.
Trying to ride that wave with him of his popularity and his fame. They don't want to be honest because they fear excommunication from his friend's group, I should say.
Yeah, and like we're saying, Mike Tyson's a scary dude. So even more so than your other friends that you would have, he's not somebody you're going to want to challenge in that way. But he was like, you know what I did with those friends? He's like, I cut them out of my life completely because I don't need that. Because to me, that's negativity.
Right.
And he's like, all it took was that honesty. He's like, when it's all rainbows and daisies, it's good. But when it's not, you need your friends to call you out on your bullshit. And that's exactly what he said. And there is a lot of truth to that, because being dishonest with your friends, it can be a really easy task, because you don't want to disappoint your friends. You don't want to make them feel bad. And especially the people closest to you, the last thing you want to do is create friction there, because you're afraid they might want to stop talking to you or hanging out with you or whatnot. So you're going to be like, oh yeah, don't worry about that weight. Oh, don't worry about this. Don't worry about that. Oh, I know you've been slacking. You've been lazy. You're talking about all these side projects you want to do and you've been off. You deserve that rest. Do they? What type of friend is that? Because when you have the right people around you, you need to have people that'll be brutally honest with you and push you. Isn't that what you would want?
I mean, yeah, that goes into what we're always talking about, keeping those smaller groups of people, the ones that actually care about either your well-being or whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. Like, I mean, again, speaking personal experience, you've been incredible in that aspect, like ever since what we've known each other since middle school, and you've seen my ups and downs. You've been incredible in the progress that I've made as a human being growing up and, becoming an adult. You've been brutally honest with me at times, and that even makes me feel like, oh, he really does care about the person I am, and he doesn't want to see me go down this hole, this dark path of being dishonest all the time or trying to be somebody that I'm not. And I mean, thank you for that. And that goes to show like the honesty in your friends group goes a long way. So you should also try to be that friend to your group of people that you hold dear and the people that you really do care about.
You should have that level of compassion in caring for your friends, the people that you really want around you, and watching them go down dark paths. It sucks. So what's better? Confront them with it. Maybe they get pissed. Maybe they don't talk to you for a month. Maybe it's even 2 months. They're going to come back around, especially when they start climbing out of that hole, and they're going to remember what you said. They're going to remember that you were there for them. And sometimes that honesty sucks and sometimes it hurts, but overall it's for the better. And like you're saying, I mean, here we are today, right? And you've helped me grow through some dark times too.
Hey.
And that's what it's all about. Everything comes around full circle, and you remember those people who were trying to get you out of that hole even if you weren't quite ready for it.
Yeah, especially if you're not quite ready for it, because a lot of people aren't. So at times they're the ones casting those friends out when really they were just trying to help. So it takes a lot of that self-reflection, like I said, even if it's later on and you're the one that told them, hey, like I want nothing to do with you, you're trying to ruin my life, but they're just there for the better. And then you turn around a couple months later and you're like, listen, like I realized he was just trying to help me. He's looking out for the best intentions, and it's okay to go back to them and, be a little bit more humble this time and, tell them that they were right. Tell them that you're planning or you have made changes in your life based around what they did, and that you acknowledge that. That's important.
It simply applies back to like the golden rule. Treat others how you want to be treated. And that's super important with your friends, because obviously if you're here listening to us, you're about that personal growth. You're trying to make a change in your life, and you're trying to be a better person. And if you're trying to do that for all your friends, expect the same thing back, because that's what you should be going for. And when you can project that out there and you're getting that projected back, like we're saying, sometimes it's not all rainbows and daisies, like Mike Tyson said. And when it's not, for him, of course, being in that super intense mindset, he just pushed the negative people away. Like immediately, like, hey, you're telling me I'm okay being fat? I want nothing to do with you, because that's not right. That's not who I am. And obviously, being the professional athlete that he is, he can't spare an extra pound.
And he had plenty of extra pounds, let's just say.
Yeah. And then you saw how he came back for the fight.
Exactly.
And why? He didn't do that alone. In his age, it took a group effort, and he's been able to be super decisive on who's around him, and had that right group to get him ready to fight again, even for as old as he is, as many fights as he's been through. And he came out and performed astonishingly.
Yeah.
And you need to be able to do that for your friends as they should for you. And all that takes is honesty. And the way I kind of want to take off from the friends and family, the last message I want to leave you guys with is, it's not always best to sugarcoat reality, because at the end of the day, reality didn't change.
Yeah, even for the people out there that think reality is an illusion or reality is a construct, like the world's going to keep going even when you're not here. So tell me how that's an illusion. Like you're putting up this facade for yourself at the end of the day, so then you can convince yourself to keep lying. And then the world's going to crash and burn that you built around you.
And then in the real world, the sun's going to come up and the sun's going to go down every day.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's great, because that brings us into our last point here, which is this more serious part of the topic when we talk about being honest with yourself. And it does have to do with understanding the world and knowing that you're only a part of it. Right. The world's not a part of you. It's completely the other way around. And microscopically, might I add, but we don't need to talk about that. And it is funny to me, too, when we talk about being honest with yourself, because when you're lying to yourself. Right? You might actually be successful at lying to other people, and you might be able to get away with it for a while, like Dan Bilzerian, right?
Yeah.
And his whole scandalous thing there, and he made it pretty far into that lie. And you can get away with that with other people, but to yourself, what you're doing.
Yeah, you're dead inside after a while. Like you're not doing any justice for your own health, your mental state. Like you're just ruining yourself. You're dead inside.
Yeah, and yet we try to justify that, and we try to believe our lies, whether it's for the sake of like an easy passage or to blame shift, especially blame shift, because that's kind of the bigger issue we have in today's era. But it's kind of like this, I don't really know. It's more like an educational cartoon that I watched growing up. And I don't know if everybody's seen it or not, but obviously it doesn't seem like it. And it's kind of based off this saying that every lie you tell requires two more to back it up. And the cartoon starts with this little boy who tells a small lie.
Okay, so off the bat, it's not SpongeBob. Go ahead.
Right. No. And he gets and then this little like scribbly ball appears, right? And it's all frantic and stuff, and he takes it and he puts it in his pocket, right? And he goes through his day and all this, and he keeps telling more and more lies to people, and the ball gets bigger. And then he takes it out of his pocket and tries to like throw it away, and then it just starts following him around, and people don't even notice it, right? And then the more lies he tells, the bigger it grows, and it gets to the point where it's like the size of his house, and it's like suffocating him, and he's like, it's surrounding him, it's a part of him, and it's pulling away at him. And then his parents come along, because of course, educational little cartoon, right? And his parents are encouraging him to tell the truth and to be honest and come up front with things, because now everybody can see that big scribbly ball around him. And so he starts telling the truth. And what happens? The ball gets smaller, and it stops suffocating him so much, and it stops pulling away at him. And you can see the relief in him. So then he starts being more honest and telling the truth more and more and more, until eventually the ball disappears, and then he can breathe and be a person again. And like we're saying, every lie you tell requires two more to back it up. So, little did I know how real this cartoon actually applies to adults, right? And I wish everybody could go and find that video and watch it for themselves, because it's the perfect explanation of what happens when you're going around telling lies to other people and telling lies to yourself, especially to yourself.
Yeah. I mean, but that's the thing. Like, the lie's eventually going to consume you. And like I said, speaking out of experience, like suffocating, it consumes every being of you. And at times you're the only one that's able to see that. So you are the one that carries that weight of the guilt of lying to everyone, lying to yourself. And then as soon as you start, being honest, confessing the lies or the mistakes that you've made. I mean, Jordan B. Peterson, Jocko Willink, they're always talking about like that honesty is freeing. You feel that weight get lifted immediately. And then you're just going to be more you're going to want that so much more after being suffocated for so long, that it's just always going to feel better to be honest. And that's the issue with a lot of these people. Like, it does take, a reason why probably people don't know of that cartoon or haven't realized the importance of that cartoon is that it takes certain people, they have to get to that point. It doesn't come super easy to everybody. Hopefully we can get that message across now to the people that are, that they still have that scribbly little ball it's behind them and it hasn't consumed them yet. But some people, it's going to take having to go through that suffocation and the controlling of those lies of revolving around them and squeezing them tighter and tighter for them to then realize that they need to make a change and they need to start being honest. They need to break away from that, the lies and the games and the mistakes that they've made. And that's the darker part of this. It's really, it takes a lot of self-reflection, and it's a big step to be honest with yourself. At first, when you're in the habit of lying and being manipulating, and especially when it comes to yourself, it takes a big step and a lot of confidence to make that first change. But once you change, you just got to keep that ball going, and it's going to feel so much better.
Lying to yourself is kind of the red zone, is the danger zone here, because you can let it go so far that it does get to that point. And especially if you're the type of person who's honestly starting to believe your lies,
right,
and believe what you're building up around you as truth, then you're in real deep water at that point. And trying to come out of it takes more than just kind of confessing the lies that you tell your friends and family. Like your friend who's gaining weight, and being lazy and stuff. And you're like, no, you're good, you're good, you're good. And then these months go by and they're just ballooning out. And it can get to the point where you're like, all right, listen, dude, you're not good. And then that's easy. But when you lie to yourself and you're trying to come out of that, you've already kind of convinced yourself. You've already justified it. So now you have to go back and be like, look, to yourself, like, look, man, this isn't right. And then now you're trying to unjustify everything you've built up, and you have to break down this massive barrier you've built. And the way I see it is like that black scribbly ball that's all frantic and whatnot. That's your brain just going and going and going. And you get rid of that. And then, like Jocko says, when you find that freedom and that peace in it, and that's what it's about. There's a lot of stillness in being able to be 100% honest all the time. And it's a great thing because I kind of get to see it with my dad. My dad does not care what people think of the truth.
Right.
And even if it gets him in like immediate trouble, right? Like us having the garage or whatnot, our mechanics make mistakes all the time. And he'll come up front and just be honest with people and be like, look, man, yeah, your car that's supposed to be ready in an hour, yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. This bolt just snapped off inside the motor, and now we got to go in there and extract it and do all these things. I'm sorry, but it's an inconvenience for you, and trust me, it's an inconvenience for me. I don't want your car here longer than it needs to be either, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
And like I get to see that through him, and sure, it brings backlash immediately, but guess what? Once that backlash is over with, it's done.
Yeah.
And then it's just what's in front of you. Because the lie, all you're doing is preventing the backlash until it's going to come. And then it comes back tenfold because now it's coming down with all the lies you were telling as well. So now you have all this thing crumbling around you and then everybody who sees it.
Right.
And it makes it so much worse. And that's why, at least with yourself, you don't have to worry about that criticism, the ridicule, the backlash from others. And that should be kind of the motivating factor here to get people to be honest with themselves. Because the only person you're disappointing is yourself. And sometimes that's a good thing. If you're not disappointed in yourself, how are you going to grow?
Yeah.
Is one way to look at it. If you're like, nah, I'm good, I'm perfect, I'm on the right path, I'm doing all the right things, you're not going to be pushing as hard as you can be.
Yeah. Or like another real world example that people can take home, like simple things that, at times I'm sure plenty of people have been pulled over, right? Let's say you're flying down the road, you have to take a dookie or something, you're turtling, you're like, it's coming out, I gotta speed. So you start flying down the road, next thing you know, and then cop comes over, hey buddy, you were speeding. And you're like, oh, I was? Who are you lying to? You're lying to yourself. You're trying to play this little act. And then what's going to happen? He's going to be like, all right, this guy's an idiot. Let me give him a ticket, right? But if you're just like simple things, like I said, real world example, you just go, listen, man, I got a dookie really bad right now. I just had to go. Then, hey, there's the chance that you get a nice guy, a nice cop that pulls you over and he's like, listen, all right, next time, pull over, go to a gas station, go to a restaurant or something. But there's little things like that just build up. Then another example being like when you make these personas, again, example being myself, you build up these personas around you. Then like you mentioned with your brain always going 100 miles an hour, trying to catch up with what you told this person or what you told that person or what you even told your friends and family, your loved ones. And then it's trying to catch up with, oh, was I playing this part for her or was I playing this part for him? Like, who am I? And then you start losing that self-identity that you initially had for yourself. And then you just start crashing and burning different relationships, different friendships. And you just don't look like an honest human being. And that's really detrimental.
That's what ties it all together, man. And it's funny because like the story with the cops and all that, I've learned that over the times too. As if people have seen our vlogs or whatnot, the two we've posted, unfortunately, right?
Yeah, they're very far in the archive.
Yeah, we're all about the cars and all that stuff, and obviously me being a mechanic and everything. And I've been pulled over for speeding a lot,
yeah,
and not for doing 10 over. I'll tell you that much, right? And it's like every time I get stopped, and they're just like, "Hey, you know how fast you're going?" And I was like, "At least 90."
102, yeah. Exactly.
It's like at least 90. I was watching the road. I'm hauling ass, dude. I'm paying attention to the road. And they're like,
what?
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, well, I'll be back with your ticket. Thank you. And then you get the ticket, and so what, right? Because I was in the wrong. I knew I was doing something wrong. And just because you're being honest with them doesn't mean you're exempt from the punishment.
Right.
It means you're taking a risk. I took the risk of speeding. I got caught doing it. So what? Get the ticket. What am I going to do? Why am I going to make this big show and make this an issue? Give me my ticket. Let me be on the way. Thanks. And that comes with that accountability towards yourself and understanding that the world goes on around you, right? And the sun's going to come up and the sun's going to set. And no matter what you do to justify things, reality still is what it is. And at least with reality, what I can tell you guys is when you're living an honest life professionally, with your friends and family, and with yourself, you get this peace of mind, you get this stillness, you get the mental clarity you need to keep moving forward and progressing on this journey of self-growth. And there's less things for you to remember, because all you have to remember is the truth, the things that actually happened, and the things that matter.
I like that a lot, man. I mean, I feel like this was a great episode. I hope a lot of people took these points to heart. I hope it really helps somebody self-reflect when they're listening and realizing the little things that are catching up to them, that little squiggly balls quickly on their tail, and they want to push it away as fast as possible. And the fastest way to do that is by starting confronting the lies and start being honest with everybody. Being honest to yourself is the first step that you have to take in order to start being honest with everybody else. And I can't stress that enough. But the things that matter, your very last sentence, like things that matter to us, this podcast, it's helping us grow as individuals, and hopefully we're helping everybody else or some of the people that are listening. I hope it really means something to them of what we put out there for you guys, and a way that, we can get out there and reach a couple more people, or a lot more people, hopefully. Like, subscribe, share the video. You can also comment down below if you've recently made that journey of being honest, if you have experience in the past, or just try helping us out with getting that community involvement, with trying to get some examples, real life situations that can help out.
And other than that, you can catch our new episodes every Monday and Wednesday at 8 a.m. EST here on YouTube. We also have the Anchor link. We're going to be uploading our videos as well. Not sure on the time, but check that out because it is going to be over on Spotify. And until next time, go on and get